Welcome all to yet another video. Dr. RS and you on science of cosmetics and personal care products. Today in part 29 we will be discussing on building blocks, actives. We are continuing. We have discussed on actives, building blocks for actives for skin moisturization, prickly heat, acne, dandruff, deodorants, antiperspirants, and now sunscreens. What are the approved sunscreens and what are the actives approved and what is the current status on sunscreen ingredients, right? This will be on actives for sunscreens G, part G. Today we will be discussing again on building blocks actives, part 29. Today we will be discussing about sunscreen actives. So before we see the sunscreen actives, I trust all of you have already gone into the discussion part 6 where we discussed about sunlight and skin. We discussed about sunlight and skin because it's a continuation of that part 6, right? Please go through part 6 before coming into part 29. However, I quickly skip through some of the discussions we had in part 6 for continuity, right? Very fast. So we discussed the UV spectrum, we discussed the sunlight, the spectrum of sunlight. In the spectrum of sunlight we have near infrared, visible, UVA, UVB, UVC and far UV. This is the wavelength, right? UVC does not reach the earth. So UVA and UVB, UVC is cut by the ozone layer, far UV doesn't reach, so all the others reach. So whatever we are going to study is about UV protection, right? That is sunlight UV protection, UVA and UVB. Please go through part 6, I have explained in detail. So in that UV components of solar that reaches the earth, what are the things? 50% infrared, 40% is visible, 10% is UV. This is the spectrum that is reaching the earth's surface. So 9.5% of that is UVA and 0.5% is UVB. This is what we discussed, right? So we discussed all the biological consequence of sun exposure. The positive thing is vitamin D synthesis, very, very important. Otherwise it causes photodermatosis, photoaging, immunosuppression, photocarcinogenesis, genotoxicity, sunburn, suntan, photosensitization. All these things we discussed in the part 6. Kindly go to part 6 and then go through for. So we said in Fitzpatrick scale there are various skin types, right? The skin type 1, 2, 3, 4, this is fair skin or white skin to black skin, right? This is what we discussed. Here always burn but never tans, but black skin never burns but tans very easily. We are in the middle, no? Rarely burn, tans with ease, no? We might be in part of this and this, right? So Indians, we means Indians, right? So this is mostly the Europeans, and because I am sitting in India and recording, so we are saying we, but globally this is for a global audience, right? So now this is the thing, the Indian population will be there, so this will be Europeans, Australians, right? So it will be like this. So when the skin is white, they are more susceptible to burn than tan. When the skin type, when you come down, the skin type is more susceptible to tan than burn. So here when we studied about pigmentation, we discussed why they are tanning and about eumelanin and pheomelanin and how. So we will discuss again when we discuss the skin lightening, those aspects, right? So here these people skin type 1, they burn, they don't tan. Go down the line, they tan, they don't burn. This is the UVA sunscreen. We said UVB doesn't penetrate much. UVA penetrates deep into the skin, visible light penetrates deep into the skin, and so effects of UV radiation, right? UVA causes tanning, right? And UVB cause mostly the sunburn. Sunburn is mostly UVB. So we Indians require more of UVA protection, right, than UVB protection, right? So remember that Indians require more of UVA protection than UVB protection because Indian skin is more susceptible to tan than burn. As you go up, type 1 in the Fitzpatrick scale, there the European skin and Australian skin is more susceptible to burn than tan. So they require more of UVB sunscreen which protects from burn. Not of course UVA should also be there because the 95% of light is UVA, and UVA also have photoaging, skin tanning, and it also plays a major role in skin cancer also, UVA, UVB. So whatever the skin type, adequate amount of UVA protection should also be there, right? UVA protection also be there. When people go for sunbath for tanning, right? Like Europeans go for sunbath for tanning, they put very high SPF sunscreens because their skin is susceptible to burn. They want to tan. They don't. So they put high SPF sunscreens so to protect their skin from burn, and they want their skin to tan, right? So that's also dangerous because UVA, if you allow UVA also, it causes lot of problems to the skin. If you excessive exposure to sunlight is always bad. A minimum dose of sunlight is always good because it has beneficial effect. Basically synthesis of vitamin D is more important, right? So I'm in the at melanin level and melanosomes level, I have discussed in part 7 skin pigmentation how the skin tan and how the skin burn and what happens in fair skin. So all those things I've discussed in part 7. Please go to part 7 and look into it. When we discuss about skin lightening actives, we might recollect it again. So now, brief history. Sunscreens first developed in 1940s, no? So to protect again from sunburn, UVB, sunburn. The sunburn causing rays were labeled as UVB, okay, and this is tan, because Europeans are not worried more about tan, they are worried more about burn because their skin are susceptible to burn. That is why initially UVB sunscreens were developed, okay. So this is what it was labeled. Sunscreens first developed prevent sunburn. Ingredients were good UVB absorbers. So how to measure the UVA protection and UVB protection? This is UVB protection. UVB protection is measured, this we have explained in full in part 6, but anyway, SPF, sun protection factor, if somebody says SPF 70, it is the thing 70 times more protection than with more protection than skin without this sunscreen. So SPF is only talk about UVB protection from burn. SPF is exposure time to produce erythema, exposure time to produce erythema, protected skin versus unprotected skin. What is the time taken? Right, at that dose of UVB light, what is the time taken? So that is the ratio. So what is SPF? We discussed before. SPF is a scale that tells you how the product protects you from UVB effects of the sun, right? So now the European skin is more susceptible to burn. Asian skin, especially Indian skin, in this part of South Asia, they are more susceptible to tan. And actually here in this part of the world, people don't want to tan. That is why putting high SPF 70 doesn't protect you from tan. No, it protects you from burn, which anyway your skin is not susceptible to. So a SPF of 20 is enough, for 25 is enough for an Indian skin. But you have to ensure that the product you are using is sufficiently protected from UVA also, UVA sunscreen also, right? Now, till recently there were no measurement for UVA, but since the UVA also damages the skin and it has even the skin cancer potential along with UVB, the rules are, even though the SPF is high for a lotion, it has to be adequately protected with UVA sunscreen also. So the measurement of UVB protection is what the first thing, it's called persistent pigment darkening. Okay, the product is applied and range of UVA wavelength light is given and seen how much time it takes for a protected skin to get tanned to unprotected skin, and that ratio. So that is what then so that is how they measured PPD. This we explained well in the part 6. So this is what, a low PPD and a high PPD, PPD of 30, PPD of 9. You can see some tanning spot here, practically no tanning spots. This is how PPD is protection. How PPD, how UVA protection is mentioned now. If somebody says sunscreen SPF 75 and 1 plus, it is minimum UVA protection. SPF 75 2 plus, no, SPF 75 3 plus and SPF 75 4 plus. So this is highly apart from UVB protection through SPF, it has very good UVA protection also. If the plus denotes the extent of UVA protection, more the pluses, more the protection from UVA, and that is how they measure, not a tan protection. Now we will go to, since this is there, we have two types of sunscreens. We will go to sunscreens now. We have two types of sunscreens, chemical sunscreens and physical sunscreens. That is one classification. None of the sunscreens except physical sunscreens which are blocks. Chemical sunscreens, none of the chemical sunscreens gives protection through the entire UVA wavelength. So there are UVA sunscreens and UVB sunscreens in basically chemical sunscreens. In chemical sunscreens we have UVA and UVB, right? Sunscreens which protect from in UVA wavelength and sunscreens that protect from UVB wavelength. So this is the thing, chemical sunscreens are organic structures. Physical sunscreens, especially zinc oxide and titanium dioxide, these are the two physical sunscreens used. Okay, these are clusters of various sizes. Clusters of various sizes. It's inorganic. Basically, these are all organic compounds. These are all inorganic compounds, right? Inorganic compounds, organic compounds. So, how can the light pass? Light can be transmitted into the skin, or it can be reflected. This is the incoming. It can be reflected or it can be absorbed, right? It can be absorbed. Organic sunscreens absorbs UV light because of their specific structure, alternate double bonds. They take the electrons and quench it, so it absorbs and make the energy, it deactivates the energy of UVA. While inorganic sunscreens, what it does, it reflects the UVA and it scatters UV light, right? So a huge titanium dioxide inorganic sunscreen particle and a small molecule methoxycinnamate, this is a UVB sunscreen. So now this deflects, this absorbs, just to show. So some of the sunscreens, right? Octinoxate, it's UVB level. Octacrylene at UVB, homosalate UVB, octisalate UVB, oxybenzone. We have titanium dioxide, till UVA1 it's there. Avobenzone, it's a very good sunscreen which protects from UVA. Zinc oxide has better spectrum. So when you see the absorption spectra of the sunscreens, right, you have to have a combination of sunscreens in your product to have wide spectrum of protection. You have to have combination of sunscreens to have wide protection, right? Here, octyl methoxycinnamate, this is the wavelength it protects, right? Benzophenone 3, this is the wavelength it protects. Then butyl methoxy dibenzoyl methane, this is what we said here, avobenzone. Avobenzone chemical name is butyl methoxy dibenzoyl methane. So this has a very good UVA protection. One of the most potent chemical sunscreen that protect from UVA is avobenzone, right? So same way, this is another depiction of how one sunscreen, two sunscreens, three sunscreens, see the wavelength of the protection widens. So if you see all the sunscreen formulations, product formulations, it's not formulated with one sunscreen. It has a combination of sunscreens to have wider protection, right? So this is inorganic sunscreen, zinc oxide. Zinc oxide comes at various particle size. At a nanoparticle size, mostly 50 to 100 nanometers, no, the effectiveness increases. Rather than uniform particle size, zinc oxide and titanium dioxide gives a very good protection than a wide range of particle size, right? That is one advantage. And also large particle size gives a white patchy appearance on the face. You can see the cricketers applying this. Even nano size gives the tinge, white tinge, but not to the extent of large particle size zinc oxide. So nano size zinc oxide or titanium dioxide, zinc oxide or titanium dioxide. Of around 50 to 100 micron size, no, it's called nano size. That size works very well as a sunscreen. So now inorganic sunscreens, zinc oxide and titanium dioxide comes as at nano size and also comes in surface modified forms. Yeah, so zinc oxide and titanium dioxide, these are all inorganic sunscreens. So these are all nano sized particles of zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. When nano sized particles are used, the tinge is significantly lower. Now there was a controversy on use of nanoparticles, zinc oxide and titanium dioxide as sunscreens, that has been recently cleared. And in the regulations they have also mentioned what can be the coating for the titanium dioxide and zinc oxide, what particle size, what are the precautions, all those aspects they have mentioned in the EU regulation, right? So active ingredients you are going to use, how they work. Physical sunscreens protect, no? Physical sunscreens protect the skin from sun by deflecting or blocking sun rays. Chemical sunscreens work by absorbing the rays, right? It absorbs the rays. Mostly they absorb the rays. By their chemical structure they can absorb and quench the energies. Okay. It's called other names. It is called sunblock. Chemical sunscreens are also called as organic sunscreens. Examples: titanium dioxide, zinc oxide. There are a lot of examples: octocrylene, avobenzone. So many examples are there, right? Stability: generally stable. Most are photostable, right? Avobenzone is notoriously unstable. However, it can be stabilized when formulated in conjunction with other UV filters, right? So avobenzone, which is a very, very potent UVA sunscreen we have now, it is very highly photo unstable. So it has to be stabilized properly in the formulation. So most of the organic sunscreens are photo stable, but some are not, right? So photo stability is one aspect. Inorganic sunscreens are generally very photo stable. Comedogenicity. Comedogenicity means causing some sort of eruptions on the skin. Some people, like we saw when we discussed acne. Comedogenic cosmetic is cosmetics ingredient. Some cosmetic ingredient for some people, they got pimple like eruptions. It's called comedogenic. No? chemical filters tend to be more irritating to the skin. They cause allergic reaction, right? They can cause comedogenicity also. But titanium dioxide and zinc oxide, they are more skin friendly. So that is why more and more people prefer inorganic sunscreens to boost the SPF rather than going to organic sunscreens. In baby sunscreen products, it's more inorganic sunscreens, and that's why cricketers, when they come out, they apply inorganic sunscreens on their face. It's much more safer, it is more photo stable rather than organic sunscreens which will not be seen at all. Inorganic sunscreens at that sunlight, it's safe. Okay. How much protection is offered depends upon the amount of the active ingredient. No protection. Titanium dioxide protects UVB rays but not full spectrum of UV rays, UVA. Zinc oxide protects against the entire spectrum of UVB and UVA. Right? They start protecting immediately. Most of the chemical filters are not protecting the entire UVA, UVB. So we have to use combination of organic sunscreens to give broad spectrum. It takes some time for them to act. Avobenzone, for example, protects against UVA. Most of the others, UVB only and part of UVA. Right? So a combination of organic sunscreens have to be used for broad spectrum protection. Texture. This is thick, it gives a white coating on the face. These are all odorless and it will not show up on the face. Safety. It's the most physical sunscreens are very safe. Nanoparticles of zinc oxide and titanium dioxide are controversial. Now they are cleared. So they don't cause, why I have written here in this is it was a controversial. You should know there was a controversy on using nanoparticles of zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. Now it's cleared. So this is generally safe. However, some chemical filters generate free radicals which can cause skin damage, irritation. Many chemical UV filters have not been, or in some countries have approved some filters, UV filters. So before getting global, check whether your sunscreen you are using is approved by all the countries, right? Generally, European Union has the list which is approved, but European Union has approved avobenzone much more earlier than US FDA. So some of the sunscreens you have to be very careful when you use. Now we have a set of sunscreens, most of them are approved, but anyway, when you are a global company and trying to sell it to all the countries, so you have to have a clear guideline on the regulatory of those sunscreens. Now, organic and inorganic sunscreens, whatever it is, it's not that it's an emollient where so many emollients are available in the market and lot of suppliers, but we have a restricted list of sunscreens that can be used, right? And that is what we are going to see. What are the lists? This is given in the annexure 6 of European Union, EC number 1223 of 2009 cosmetic products, right? So here the sunscreens, para-aminobenzoic acid, what is the maximum level it can be used? Camphor benzoconium methosulfate, this is the chemical name, this is the common name, right? And 6%, homosalate 10%, benzophenone 3 10%, phenyl benzimidole sulfonic acid, this is a water soluble, neutralize, it is a water soluble sunscreen, 8% as acid. Then tetraphthalidine dicamphor sulfonic acid 10%, butyl methoxy dibenzoyl methane, this is avobenzone 5%. So benzylidine camphor sulfonic acid 6%, no, octacrylene 10%. So this is again a very widely used ethyl hexyl methoxycinnamate. Sometimes it's called as octyl methoxycinnamate, right? Octyl methoxycinnamate with avobenzone used widely. It's a good UVB sunscreen. Most of the sunscreen listed here except butyl methoxy dibenzoyl methane, they are all UVB, right? They are all UVB sunscreens. Then see, I think this list you can see very clearly. This is the list, only 2 pages. The next, these are the sunscreens approved, no, ethyl hexyl triazone, no, all these things, benzylidine camphor, most of them are. And here in the inorganic sunscreens only titanium dioxide is written. This is 2009 guideline. This is 2009 guideline. In the UV, titanium dioxide is written here. It can be used at 25% level. Okay. And what are the recent things? No? Very recently, right? Very recently, phenyl bis diphenyl tralazine, a new sunscreen has been added, which is a good UVA protectant. Okay, at till 5% max it can be used. This people who are in the business, they can take a note of it if they are not already aware of it, right? Phenyl bis diphenyl tralazine, it's a new sunscreen approved by EU, European Union. Globally you have to see, European Union has approved. It's a good UVA protectant. You can get into the suppliers literature, right, of this ingredient. This is one which is allowed. All the others are existing for long, and till recently there is an inclusion. They have explained, okay, titanium dioxide, nano can also be used, okay, titanium dioxide nano has been included, right, maximum 25%, and we said there are a lot of surface treatment for titanium dioxide and zinc oxide, so it should not be used in inhalation products, right? When it is nano sized, don't use in talcum powders and all those things, no, it should not be used in inhalation products, very important, right? So for face powders, nano coated with the combination of alumina and manganese dioxide, not to be used for lips. Conditions of use and warnings, no? Compact face powders, right, you just apply, but dusting powder, no, when you, that itself it's a problem. You have to be very careful that they are not giving a product that enters the lungs, nanoparticles, right? So Here they have said what type of titanium dioxide, what is the nanoparticle size that can be, and what are the coatings that are allowed. Coated with silica, hydrated silica, alumina, aluminum hydroxide, aluminum stearate, stearic acid, then glycerin, dimethicone, and or coated with one of the following, silica, So these are all the coatings they have given. So they have approved all these coatings on a nano sized titanium dioxide. This is the new regulation, right, for titanium dioxide that has recently come, and this is zinc oxide nano. This is zinc oxide. Previously zinc oxide was not included as a sunscreen. Now it has been included, zinc oxide nano. Again, not to be inhaled. So what is the purity? It has to be. What is the particle size? It can be. You can use both uncoated and coated with these things. Right. We have seen the various sunscreens that has been approved. So just a short thing. To be considered as a potential UV sunscreen agent, a chemical entity must have the following attributes. I am not saying potential, I can say ideal. No, it has to be ideal. Is there any ideal things? It's not there. But if it has to be ideal UV sunscreen agent, what attributes it should have, right? So it must absorb UV light over a broad or a specified part of the spectrum without any chemical breakdown. See, if it can absorb broad wavelength, it's better. But if not, if it is absorbing only at a specified wavelength also, it's okay. But it should not break down, any chemical breakdown. No chemical breakdown should happen, which would lead to reduction in efficacy or the production of toxic or irritant byproducts. As I told you, organic sunscreens, organic sunscreens chemistry itself, they are all double bonds, alternate double bonds they can absorb the energy and quench the energy of that particular wavelength of light which it's working, and in the process anything else can happen. Reduction in efficacy can happen. It can break down to byproducts, and over a period of time efficacy can reduce. Unless or otherwise, if it's a inorganic sunscreen, titanium dioxide or zinc oxide, they are stable. 2. It must possess suitable characteristics to allow it to be readily formulated into cosmetic vehicles and should be absorbed easily into the skin. It should not leave an oily layer on the skin. It should blend with the skin very well. If it leaves an oily layer, you feel very uncomfortable using it. So it should not leave an oily layer on the skin, and it should blend with the skin, and it should be easily formulatable. Right? 3. It must be resistant to removal by water or sweat. It must not require too frequent reapplication to be effective. It must be effective even at low concentration. And most important, it must be non-toxic, non-irritant and non-sensitizing. Right? This is what an ideal sunscreen should be. So now, as we end, we will go to the final session, my life lesson, right, which I used to share before I end. Very important thing, all souls in this earth are interconnected. we said in part 13, you are not the body, you are the soul, right? A soul, you are the soul in the body. You always see you as a physical body. No, you are not the physical body, you are the soul. And all souls in this earth are interconnected. The energies are interconnected. If you can, with a small mobile phone, can get connected with somebody in US from India, long distance. So there are the energies which interconnect all of us. So all souls in this earth are interconnected. So what you do for others, you are doing it for yourself. Thank you for listening. Let us get connected in the next session. Till then, bye.